All right, it's a fresh Tuesday morning out here, and we're gonna go to our next hurdle on this small block Chevy. Hey, I'm back to it. We got something new here I want to show you guys. I got a whole bunch of mess here in the garage. Almost done with the duck mansion, but we went and got something yesterday. Another small block Chevy. What is this? What did I find? Well, when I was coming back from Louisiana, when I stopped and took a break, I pulled up Marketplace because I always kind of look in those areas I'm traveling, and this came up, but it came up in Tulsa, and I was like, what the heck? So I got looking at it, and let's look at it. So this is, as you can tell, a small block Chevrolet. We'll go back here on the casting number on the rear, 3970010. And it looks to me, it's got the 010. It's got the little casting number TDB, which shows, that's what is weird. It shows 307 or a blank spot. Well, the 3970010 is a 350 small block. And this thing came out of a 78 3/4 ton pickup. It has the large harmonic balancer on it. And at first I was like, well, because the truck had a 1-ton axle, I'd be like, man, most of those came with 400 small blocks or 454s. But this does not have a cutout on it for like a counterweight. And then of course we don't have a flywheel, so that's ruling out that it's a 400 small block, but it's a 350. And the guy pulled it out because, as you guys have seen in my channel so far, I've had a problem, and it seems like everybody is, the freeze plugs are rotting out of these. So it needs a new set of freeze plugs. I've inspected it, looked at it. I don't see a cracked block or anything. And so that looks good. And the price is pretty right. It's got that big filter on it. But I spun it over by hand. It's making compression. It seems like we got a pretty good small block Chevy here. So what I want to do is get it cleaned up and do some gasket work on it, get this thing straightened up where it can be used. So I think we're going to try to make us a good running small block with this thing. All right, I'm back out here working on that old 350 I just picked up from the Marketplace. Let's check it out. So I've been out here scrubbing on this thing, trying to get it cleaned up. It's kind of hard to get them real clean, but it's getting there. It's cleaning up pretty good, man. I don't see any cracks in it. It did have a freeze plug out on it. My light's not the best over here, but the old motor's cleaning up. I think it's gonna do all right. So I pulled the valve covers and they just silicone them with no gaskets, which is kind of odd. So that very understandably why this thing was as oily as it was, but I would have thought it'd been a lot oilier than that. But upon inspection, the thing looks pretty clean inside. I mean, it's not bad. It's not the cleanest one I've ever seen, but it's not the worst one either. I did look up the number there, and it's, I don't know if you guys can see, it's a 462 624 casting. So I looked up that cylinder head, and it is a 76 to 86 large combustion chamber, so it's not good for anything. It's good just for a motor to run. So the motor's cleaning up pretty good. I went ahead and knocked all the core plugs, freeze plugs, or whatever you want to call them, and I learned something, and I figured this out when I got that white Camaro from the CTC Auto Ranch, and it had a bad freeze plug, is these blocks, all of them get a little bit of sediment in the bottom. So basically the whole bottom of this thing's got a little bit of dirt and rust and crud in it. And so I went ahead and knocked all the plugs out. And this thing this one was the one that rusted out and it was already gone. So I decided, man, I'm just gonna pull them all, and we're gonna wash that block out. Oh, I forgot to pull that plug out of there. But yeah, we're gonna bring the trailer over here and set this on it and move it outside and do some more scrubbing out of the light. And then I'm gonna thoroughly rinse the inside of this block out to try, because like, you think about it, if there's that much, you know, sediment in there, that's that much cooling that's not getting, you know, to the bottom of it. And man, if you pull one of these motors and you got one bad freeze plug, chances are you're gonna have several other ones. So it's like, I've learned it's a good rule of thumb, just change all the freeze plugs, core plugs, change them all out while you got the motor out. It's not, they're like 75 cents a piece. I ordered a gasket kit this morning, so I think we're gonna get this thing cleaned up as best we can and then do a tear down on it. I think I'm just gonna go down the short block. I'm not gonna tell you, I'm gonna maybe check a few bearings and stuff, but our goal is to change the cylinder heads and just put this thing back together, re-gasket it, put a good timing chain in it. We're gonna just try to make a good running motor out of this. So I'm gonna move some stuff around and we're gonna get to work. Had to slow down a little bit, I'm getting ahead of myself. But there it is, man. It's all cleaned up. It's the best I can do with an old dirty motor that didn't have any valve cover gaskets on it. But I've completely washed out the cooling system, the water jackets, as best I could. The next move is I'm gonna move it over here, put it on the stand. All right, so before we put this thing on the stand, we're gonna drain this engine oil out and see what it looks like. Maybe it's got water, maybe it's got crud, maybe it doesn't have any. I checked this, dude. It's got oil in it. It's got the large old style oil filter on it, which is kind of cool. But that thing holds a full 1.5 quarts. So hopefully, oh, we got water. There we go. It's got a little bit of water in it, probably condensation. And now we're rolling oil. If I move my hand, it's gonna go all on the floor. There we go. See, that's a little dirty. Okay, we're gonna pull this oil filter off next. Being that this thing hadn't ran in a while, it shouldn't be spilling out the side. It is a good Wicks filter though. And see, you might be worried that water came out of it, but what happens when these things get water in them, the water actually goes to the bottom and pushes the engine oil up. So more than likely this crankshaft was probably sitting in some oil, depending on how much it is. There ain't any water in this one. So that's a good sign. So we're just gonna let that sit for a little bit. I'm gonna let it drain out. All right, so I got all the bolts off the intake manifold. We're gonna go ahead and pull this thing. I'm not reusing it, so we're gonna pull this thing and get it off and have a look on the inside. This thing's so heavy. So far, looks like a pretty clean old motor besides just a few little chunks of crud in it. The intake runners look good. I'm gonna roll it over and just double check, make sure all the push rods are moving. I did that last night, but I'm gonna do it again. But yeah, it even doesn't smell bad at all. We may have something pretty good here. So. Okay, we got that off. One thing to look at too on these small block Chevys is always look at the front of your crank. See that keyway right there? Is during inspection, a lot of these balancers like to crack and bust and they can tear up the front of your crank. And if that's torn up, you're pretty much SOL. You'll be building a new engine. But this one looks to be in decent shape, and then like, you know, the rubber's cracked on it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna reuse that or not, but another thing to note is I'm not taking the cylinder heads off before I turn it upside down. Reason being is if any of these lifters fall out and get mixed up, you're done, because those have to go exactly in the back last spot. So what I'm doing right now is we're gonna flip this thing upside down. All right, Let's pull this pan and the timing chain cover. You ready to see it? On. So we're gonna pull that up. Oh, we got us a 4-bolt main. Got a little bit of sludge, condensation. Okay, and we got a single roller, just standard timing chain. It ain't terrible, you know. It's getting pretty loose. I would say it needs to be changed. So it is a 4-bolt main, which, I mean, a lot of people will think that's amazing. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't make one difference to the other to me. Doesn't look too bad. I'm gonna kind of feel around on everything, see how it feels. Doesn't feel bad. I'll probably check a bearing in it, kind of pry back and forth, make sure that thrust washer is not jacked up. Yeah, somebody's been into it because they got a lot of silicone back here, which is really not what you want to do, but it works. Yeah, they've got somebody's been in this before. So it's this stuff's rolling up on 50 years old, man. It's all been rebuilt once. So, I mean, there's no way to really tell how many miles is on it. I can't find my light. We've lost it working on the duck house. Another thing I want to go over on these is with these flat tappet camshafts, cam failure is always an option. So one thing I want to check, I've done nothing to the rockers, is when you look at that screw it or the stud, the pressed-in stud right there, look at the thread depth of that nut. Every one of these should be just about exactly the same. And why do you ask that? Well, if this cam has been going flat, somebody will come in here because the rocker won't be making noise. They'll keep tightening it down, and as they tighten it down, the lifter pumps up. It'll just keep grinding the lobe off that cam, and you'll definitely see where that'll happen when there will be a lot of studs sticking up where they've tightened it down and you've got a lot of that stud sticking out of there. So this thing looks pretty even, so that's a good sign. All right, time's come. We got this cylinder head loosened up. Turn loose, there you go. Okay, first look. Now I did spray these with penetrating oil. It's got kind of a dish flat top style piston. See, that's another reason I'm kind of glad I pulled this off, just to help it out a little bit. We're gonna put these in the trash bucket. Yeah, a little corrosion. Again, this is an old motor, man. Just an old motor. We're gonna clean this up. So I went ahead and just basically wiped the pistons off. Cleaning up pretty good. There's still some light crosshatch in there, but the cylinders are somewhat, got a little bit of a glaze to them. There's no ridge. I just need to get this deck surface cleaned up. I pulled all the lifters out, made sure nothing was flat. I'm going to take them, wipe those down, put some oil on, even though they're already oily. But yeah, essentially you could have just put some gaskets and a timing chain on this motor and it would have ran fine. Okay, so what we've done is we got our number 1 piston all the way up top dead center. If you could see down in there, those 2 dots, they're lined up perfectly. And then we're also, slide this off here real quick, you probably can see a little bit better. Our keyway is about the 2 o'clock position. Yeah, I slid the cover back on. We're pretty close to 0. It seemed like the piston is down in the hole just a scotch, but it could be the deck height or whatever piston height. It doesn't matter on that part. But also remember that chain has got a ton of slack in it. So saw it last, I have tapped all the holes in the block for the cylinder heads. I've cleaned the pistons, I've cleaned everything, I've inspected everything, changed the timing chain. I've done everything I can think of. All the lifters are good. I pulled every one of them out and looked at it, and nothing's mushroomed and rounded off. Motor's still got crosshatch in the cylinders. This is probably the best, cheapest motor I could find, really, to be honest with you. Now, usually I start these things before I get going, but I don't know. I just was ready to tear into this one and see what we had. But let me show you why. Well, first I'd say a smart person would have just left it together, done some gaskets and used it. But the problem with these 70s and 80s small block Chevys, and I'll show you that I wanted to. As you can see, this is kind of a somewhat dished flat top style piston.
But the thing that plagues these small block Chevrolets is compression ratio in the 80s. See, in the 60s and right up to about 1972, they had a decent compression ratio, where what happened is most of these had a straight flat top at a zero deck, all that kind of stuff. Well, they use these 993, 882. I think this is a actually, this is a casting number I've never seen. 4620624. So what the deal is, and you would automatically think, it's like, oh, it's got bigger valves and it's got 194 150s. But the problem is this bathtub style 76 to 78 cc chamber. So this motor, as it sets, would probably have about 8.7 to 1 compression, which is not good for any kind of efficiency and really not good for any kind of power. And so what I propose to do is, I like these, and I got this out of the How to Build a High Performance Small Block Chevy. David Viziard made a book, and these are the 1402 2601 cylinder heads. So these came on like 305s and vans and like 3rd gen Camaros and stuff like that. But if you look, there's a difference. These have a heart-shaped 58 cc chamber. Now your average aftermarket has a 64, but what'll happen is it'll bump this thing from about 8 to 1 to about 9 something, between 9 to 1 and 9.5 to 1, and get the compression ratio up and get the efficiency. Well, you got to be asking, what does it matter? Well, on a 4-stroke engine, when the piston here comes up to top dead center on the compression stroke, it's trying to push that fuel, air, and all that stuff and make it into a ball before the spark plug fires it off. Well, with that piston and that chamber, it's not really making what they call a quench. It's not like smashing it together very good. Where this one, when that piston comes up and all that stuff goes in that chamber, it just like balls it up and gets it right on that plug, and it's way more efficient. According to that book that I read, there's about 30 to 40 foot-pounds of torque below 5,000 RPMs just from going from this head to this one. And I personally have done that before, and it's literally the best seat in the pants modification I've ever done to a small block Chevy, going from this style head to this one and everything. So it's worth doing. Now, I will say, if you're wanting a 6,500 RPM motor or something, you know, this head has got the, I think it's a 184, 150. This is a 194. So really, anything below 5,000 RPMs, it doesn't need the 202 160s. You know, if you're just building a low end kind of torque motor, especially on the cheap. But I'll get to the next thing that's kind of where we're going with this. Unfortunately, this set of heads I bought on Marketplace probably 2 or 3 years ago, the valves are leaking on it, so they need a valve job. My old set of these 305 heads with the Z28 springs that I actually had on a small block with a crane cam, and I sprayed 150 shot to these heads. Actually, the guides, when I started, you can see I put new seals in them. And well, it's on this one. You can see I started the seal process. Well, this guide has got a ton of slop in it. So what's going to happen is when this valve opens, and if it's coming up on the exhaust stroke, that pressure is going to blow down in the crankcase. So that's not a good thing. So I've decided to go a whole different route with this motor. So I did the sensible thing, and I just went ahead and bought a brand new set of cylinder heads. So let's check out what I got. Here we are. These are the Edelbrock E Street aluminum cylinder heads. So you got to be thinking, what in the world would you spend that kind of money to put that on that? Well, if I'm going to spend $850 on those to have them rebuilt, I want to go, I think I gave $1350 for these. And, you know, it gives me something to build on for the future, like this motor. If I end up wanting to put a cam in it or something like that, I have a good cylinder head. You know, this has got screw-in studs, got a little bit better valve spring. These, only thing I'm worried about is I've got a factory flat-tapped cam, and these got about 125 pounds in the seat. I think that's a little much, but we'll find out. But these have 64 cc chambers, which is pretty normal. And you can see they match those chamber design pretty closely to where we got the inefficient junk ones. And then also one thing that you want to look at too, if you're building something for the street that's not like complete racing, these are a 185 cc runner. Well, you want to keep that airspeed tight and low for a low, 5,000 RPMs or less. It's going to really do good for a street motor. And this has got a stock cam. This thing's probably going to run out of steam at 4,500 with the stock cam. This will probably go to $6,000 if I had a cam in it. But for an old farm pickup, this is going to work out just fine. So we got something to build off of. So our next goal, I've already tapped every one of these holes. I'm going to re-clean it, make sure it's just spotless, and we're going to put these heads on. Now these, I will note that these valve stems are 100 thousandths longer. So you got to get a push rod that's 100 thousandths longer as well, which I've done to match up. Otherwise the geometry is going to be off. I got a small block ARP head stud kit, and then I also got the matching head gaskets and everything. So the part number on these cylinder heads is the 5089. The part number on these head gaskets are 7310. And I will note that I was going to go with the Vortec top end kit from Jegs, but the reviews and for the money, this costs the same as what that did. So I feel better. And no, really, these iron heads too, these are more forgiving on lower octane fuels and everything. And it just, nobody's really building iron head motors anymore. So I think it was a good upgrade. Another thing I would watch for when you're putting your head gaskets, and make sure all your little holes, that was a bowl hole, for your water jackets and stuff, they all line up correctly, because that will be a problem. You won't want a restriction in the cooling system. So let's put this next head on. So I read in the instructions here that there may be some possible push rod guide plate clearance issues on the cylinder head. And this is just saying push rod, but it doesn't say cylinder head. So I've got this, I've already got quite a bit of time into this, but on a small block Chevy, and I've had no problems with factory style heads, but if you look how crooked that rocker arm is. It needs to go this way. Well, we have a problem with cylinder head clearance. And if you go down this way, this will just give you a good example. We have spots where the push rod is coming in contact with the cylinder head itself. So you can see how crooked that whole setup is. I mean, look how close that is. I feel that they could have done better with that. Like, look at that push rod. Just about right up against that. None of this stuff is centered very well. Here we go. Here's another one with the rocker arms pretty well straight into the cylinder head right there. So I'm gonna have to take, there's another one. That one's not too bad, but I'll say these are not very fun to adjust. I like a fixed guide plate, but yeah, there's gonna be spots where we're gonna have to go in here and clearance that a little bit on the cylinder head. Like, I don't know. I always thought Edelbrock's R&D on their stuff was really good. And then in the instructions it said there may be cylinder head clearances due to the varying small block Chevys, but I guarantee you I could put that head, that one, or any other one and have none of these issues. And this is with a stock lift camshaft too. So, and I've rotated around. It's just some of them are very, very close. So I've spent basically all morning. It's about 2 o'clock now. I decided not to do any grinding on it because I went ahead and just went over every one of these and adjusted the push rods, or the guide plates, I'm sorry. Adjusted the guide plates to get them where they will run on the stem, the valve stem, correctly. It's still closer than I like, but it looks like I've went through every one of these, full lift, everything. These intakes will shine a little bit of light between where they run, but my God, they're awfully close. way too close for my liking. I think from the factory, I think these push rod holes, that either needs to be a big giant open area, or they need a little bit more meat. They need to bore those holes a little bit deeper. But I've went over the valves, rechecked them. I can't. They're barely missing the head. Like, we can shine the light and you can see light coming up through there, but I've really got no way to measure it. But it's as close as I can get with it. I think in the future, if I have to take this apart, that's probably something I would have done to these heads, is take them to a machine shop and have them open those holes up a little bit more, because I think that's probably what should have been done from the factory when they made them. But yeah, I think next move is I'm gonna put the intake manifold on and start trying to button this thing up. So we got us a fish fry going. Also got a little boil going. Woo! Enjoying what summer we have left. Got that going. But I found out, went ahead and put this thing on the stand, put the flywheel, everything else. I don't know if you can see, but I forgot to put the back freeze plugs in, so I've got to pull it right back off. So darn it. Went ahead and put a Vortex style small starter. And I'm gonna go ahead and go with this Excel replacement HEI. It's a new one. I kind of do this on stuff that I tend to want to drive. So yeah, that's what we're putting in next. All right, guys, so we've skipped ahead, and if you guys want to see me start these motors on stands, I got several other videos where I went from the beginning to the end, but this one, I'm kind of trying to get moved along. Unfortunately, I've already started it. It busted right off. It's amazing. I've already run it through one heat cycle. I want to fill you in on where we've made it to so far. So I've been having one problem, is with the flywheel. I bought a brand new flywheel to fit an 80s model 350 engine. Okay, so the problem is the flywheel, when it's spinning, it's flopping. It's almost doing the same thing that Blazer was doing with it hitting the starter. Well, I used to do this trick back in the day with a 168 tooth flywheel. I'd get one at 11 tooth, which is the only one they have. 90s, I think a 95, 96 starter, and it's a gear reduction factory style starter. Well, I was spinning the engine. This is before we got to this point. It didn't sound right. It was pretty loud. It didn't acted like it wasn't meshing good with the teeth. So I found a factory starter. Well, that starter, the flywheel is flopping for some reason, and it's hitting that starter. But I'll also Okay. After removing the other flywheel, taking it back, we chucked it up in the lathe. It was in fact bent and had a wobble to it. So here's our new flywheel, and I'm gonna show you guys. We got no noise, nothing's hitting. We got plenty of room between the starter and the two teeth and everything. Nothing's touching. All right, let's fire this dude up. You're about to find out what I'm talking about. So I've been pondering, I've been thinking, and my whole life I've tortured myself. Everything besides like daily drivers and stuff, but all the cool stuff I've had to put motors in them and fix them and all this stuff. I've never really just bought a cool car, secondary that I just could jump in and drive, So I was sitting here thinking about it. I was like, there's two things I've bought this last year that as soon as I got them, as soon as I was doing, I was like, where was this at 20 years? Like, I've been torturing myself. One of them being this 2003 Mach 1 Mustang. Aside from some general maintenance, knock on wood, I've just jumped in it, drove it, and I feel fantastic every time I use it. The second thing, and my friend Matt's going to like this, and I know I'm going to catch some flack because I've been talking smack about it, is this stinking ratchet from DeWalt. This thing has made my life so much easier in the last 3 weeks. I've been doing everything the old school way with hand tools. I don't hardly use, aside from an impact on wheels, I don't really use any power tools for nothing. I do it all by hand. This effing thing, this has made life so much better. So, yeah, last year, this ratchet, that Mustang have made my life so much more enjoyable. So, yeah, just pondering about stuff. So I had a rather interesting moment because that was about to be the last of our video, and I had the motor revved up to like $2,000, trying to get it warmed up and everything, and then I heard, I was like, what had happened? And if you see, I've got a little green mark right there on that intake on this number 5 cylinder. Well, this was loose, and I was like, oh no, this thing's wiping the cam out, which I was thinking 125 pounds in the seat seemed kind of high for a flat tappet cam, but I got down here and noticed I usually, when I adjust valves, I'll count the threads, and this thing had usually between 3.5 and 4 threads sticking up. Well, this only had 2 threads on it, and I was like, what the hell? And this is the second time it's happened because when I first started it up, it did the same thing, and I was like, I tightened it down, readjusted it, went on my way. Well, it went immediately from running and sounding perfect to loose, and I was like, oh no, we wiped that low ball. So I took the rocker arm off, pulled the rod out. You can't see nothing down these Edelbrock heads because the holes they've got for the push rods are just too small. They're too close to the push rods anyways. So I checked the lifter, rolled it down the best I could see. What I decided I think happened is I think that nut had backed off. I think it was just not tight or whatever. So I got another nut that I had, put it on. I ran this motor through 2 heat cycles, and I mean, I revved this thing up probably 3,000 RPMs or so, and I mean, really just let it eat, and it's still within adjustment, So I'm gonna put the valve cover back on. We're gonna heat cycle it one more time. All right, so heat cycled the engine again. This thing is doing as good as I can make it do. So you gotta be asking yourself, what are you gonna do with this? Well, you're gonna find out, but I got one more surprise for you. And if you notice, we're loading it in the back of my truck. We're going to take a little field trip, so stick with me. All right, so I told you guys we had a little bit of surprise. You can tell we're not at the house. We are down the street. My neighbor here at Warrior Machine, Chuck, he has an engine dyno, so let's check this out. So we're getting all the files here lined up. We've got the 350 here on the dyno. I figured what better way for us to see what difference this makes than actually measure it and check it out. We're gonna get it all jetted in. Now I'll go back over this. This is a stock flat top piston 350. It's got the Edelbrock E Street cylinder heads on it. They got 180cc, the 202 valves, all that stuff. We got a standard Edelbrock Performer intake, a 2-barrel of unknown size and number because it's got a number on it that none of us recognize. But we kind of went down from 67s to 62s, I think, on the jets. But yeah, we've got it strapped down. You got the water system bled. We got a fuel system. And yeah, we're going to see what this thing makes and try to get it tuned in and just see, was it even worth the hassle? It's got a standard HEI distributor in it, new wires, this, that, and the other. So yeah, let's see what it does. So you got to be asking, what do you think it's going to make? Well, I think it's going to make probably 265 at $4,000 and probably 320 foot-pounds, probably like 2,700. Well, that's Chuck. What power do you think this thing's going to make, Chuck?
Probably 275.
275, something like that. Yeah, because you got to, guys, got to remember this has got a stock camshaft in it, so. First pull. Did it?
You'll be shocked. $250.
250, that's not bad. And 4,200, it's not bad at all. 300, oh my gosh, that torque's 350 something. 353.
It's the fat pig. Now we got it fat.
Oh, 1050, yeah. All right, we got a jet change on the carburetor.
Hang on just a second. I'm in the middle of a run.
We broke 300 horsepower.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
What we doing? Oh. What did the number on that? I got a 2-barrel carburetor here.
So what is that? 305 at 4,700.
1085?
And then we're at 388, 390 foot-pounds of torque.
350 or something?
We hit 400 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000. Wow. So yeah, we made 305 horsepower at 4,700, and we made 400 foot-pounds at 3,300. So that, for a stock cam motor, that's not bad. So yeah, we found out what size that carburetor is. It's a 350 CFM Holly. So that's crazy, man. I'm pretty happy with that. So this is the run. Get a glare off that. All right, so we're back at the house. So what do you guys think? Think that's pretty good for a basically junkyard style 350 engine with just slapping some heads on it and going. Yeah, 305 horsepower at 4,700 and basically 330-ish, 340 foot-pounds starting at $2,000, going all the way up to 3,700 and keeping that. So like, that's going to work pretty good in a heavier kind of vehicle, you know, like a four-wheel drive or a farm pickup, so to speak, with tall gears in it. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good setup, you know. And then we did find out it has a 350 CFM Holley carburetor on it, so it's way under carbureted. So yeah, if it had a 4-barrel on it, you know, everything jetted right and all that kind of stuff, that thing probably would have made 320 horsepower, 300, I'd say 325 and probably another 10, 12 foot-pounds of torque. But yeah, it's sitting on the table, waiting for the next thing it's going to go in. So yeah, if you guys like that, thought that was pretty cool, hit me up. Let me know what you think about it. Drop some comments and all that. Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get on to something else.